Game time decisions, Ohio State's key strategic and game planning things that they need to have set up for Saturday's game at Minnesota. And I think we're probably all going to talk in some ways about things that sort of tangentially have to do with Minnesota, but are more about the game coming up a week after that at Michigan. Stephen, what's your game time decision?
I want to see Ohio State's defense get off the field routinely. Michigan State's offense stunk, so it was not that hard to do that. Early in the year, if you remember, especially when they were adjusting to these new clock rules, you saw Youngstown State and Indiana just kind of slow the game down and shorten the game. And part of the reason they were able to do that is because the defense was not getting off the field. And obviously the defense has turned into a dominant defense at this point, but Minnesota is either second or third in the Big Ten in time of possession per game, and they're top 20 in the country. It's just Ohio State's offense needs to be explosive again. We need to see what they did against Michigan State again, because they need to continue to build that momentum, but also get some of these guys out in the second half and let some of these younger guys behind them get reps so guys can get healthy. You can't do that if your offense is sitting on the sidelines. So Minnesota is going to come in here. They might be without their starting running back, and so they're going to come in here and try to shorten the game. And they're going to try to make every single possession they have 6, 7, 8 minutes long so Ohio State's offense is on the sideline. I just want to see Ohio State's defense get off the field time and time again, whether it's forcing turnovers or getting 3 and outs, and putting this offense in the best case scenario to be up 35-3 or something like that at halftime, so it can take its foot off the gas pedal and get their stars out and get some other guys some much needed and well-deserved reps in game situations.
35-3, not a random score. You're just pulling out of your belly button. That's what the score was at halftime last week, and that's what allowed them to get those guys out in the second half. Mine is close to yours. Listen, Ohio State was killed by explosive touchdowns last year against Michigan and Georgia, and they've come so far and been kind of dominant in that area, if you can be dominant at not doing something. And they've prevented them and not allowed them consistently all season. And last week, Michigan State on the first drive had like a 20-yard run. Then they had a 27-yard completion. Those are the only 2 explosive plays they had the whole game. They came on the first 2 drives of the game for Michigan State. You got to see another performance like that, I think. And the reason it's important is because you don't know who's going to be out there. You could be without Tommy Eichenberg. You could be without, we saw him today coming off the practice field. Wednesday evening coming off the practice field. We saw Josh Proctor. We saw Denzel Burke. We saw, everybody except Mike Hall that has been out. So can they keep that momentum going even with asking those guys to step up? Because, frankly, even though they're trying to get those guys back for the Michigan game, we don't know who's going to play against Michigan. So it's both, I think, just the vibe of taking that defense in with some momentum and full confidence, but also guys who might be asked, even if guys can come back for the Michigan game, you're coming off an injury. You don't know what that's going to mean. Like, you might still be asking some young, less experienced guys to do big things in the biggest game in college football this year, and playing well Saturday could help them do that. Andrew, what's your game time decision?
I want to see you obviously want to see the offensive line play well. You obviously want to see that progression going into Michigan. I'm curious what the rotation looks like on the interior, because we've talked about this a lot this week with Matt Jones maybe playing center and what's going on with Carson Hinsman, and do you make a move there? I think we're going to find out this week how serious they are about it, because if last week was just, hey, look, the score was 35-3 at halftime, we can afford to do this, maybe you do the same thing this week and you just do it for another 10 reps. But if you see it early, like if you see a rotation there early, like if you see Vamahi come in, Matt Jones kick over to center, then I think you know that they're serious about it going into the Michigan game, or at least they're considering a change going into the Michigan game. If we have another situation where, it's 34-0 in the third quarter, and then you make the change, I think you can look at it and say they're building a backup plan, they're building a plan B. That's what I personally believe. But if this game is like 17-0 in the second quarter and Matt Jones is snapping, then I think we've got something going on here where you can say, okay, this is it. This is not just in the back of their mind. They are actively thinking about this. They are actively planning for this. So I want to see what's going on in the interior, because as we mentioned before, Michigan's defensive tackles are really good, and this is a nice little prep up or lead up week going into prep for Michigan. So curious what that looks like.
Yeah, that would at least indicate that it's probably something that they're going to test out during the week and in make a decision going into the Michigan game. It is definitely something to keep an eye on, and we'll be doing that. So listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you can find podcasts, and get the text 614-350-3315, because when we get intel, like guys coming off the field after practice and who's practiced, or frankly on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon before the game, who's out there, who's warming up, who's doing what, we'll be coming to you straight to your phone from cleveland.com.